Shabbat Shalom, friends. Welcome to Temple Beth Israel. We're so pleased to have you this evening for Erev Shabbat services. Services will begin promptly at 7:30. Again, Shabbat Shalom.
I don't know what the problem is. Continue. This is where it timed out last time. It was clearly picking up the sound because that's what was causing the loop.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. You know Maxwell, right? Rabbi's computer, check and see what Wi-Fi it's on. It needs to be on visitor, not guest.
Two kids every year. Well, I know I'm going to go, yeah. Also, there's
Okay, terrific.
Can't do that. My mom walked around me by Mars. No, I did last. Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, friends, and welcome to services at Temple Beth Israel. We will begin services very soon. Again, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to services at Temple Beth Israel.
Shabbat Shalom, friends, and welcome. It's wonderful to be here together on this, which is the third Shabbat in the Hebrew month of Sivan, and it is also the Shabbat on which we will call Jonah Weiss to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. Jonah, we're thrilled to share this occasion with you and with your family. Friends, as you can tell, we are still observing caution with regard to COVID, so I'll ask you to keep your masks on and wear them properly, which means so that they cover your mouth and your nose. If you need the restroom, you'll just go through the double doors and the usher will direct you. Otherwise, we ask you to stay seated in your pods. If you have a reading part or an aliyah, you'll come to this brown lectern right here in the middle. And what else do I need to tell you? We also want to welcome those of our friends who are joining us via the miracle of the internet. We're glad that you're with us, even though we can't see you. You can see us, I hope. We'll begin our worship in the blue prayer book on page 10 with the singing of Maya Fehayom.
Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Turn in our prayer books to page 2 and 3, and we welcome Shabbat with the blessing of the Sabbath lights.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of all the generations of Israel who have kindled lights, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
We continue on page 6, and we call on Mary and Tony Olodrovic.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to live lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves.
Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
Now we call on Melody Weiss.
May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a rich and more meaningful life.
Now we call on Kelly and Josh Weiss and turn to the top of page 9.
There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain.
On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature as if we were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we act as if we care nothing for the rights of others.
On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world is our goal.
So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace.
Now we continue on page 16, and call on Andy and John Weiss.
Sing praise to Adonai with the lyre and melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Raise a shout before Adonai, the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly, and its peoples with equity.
We continue on page 20 with the singing of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha dodi likrat kalai, alalai, 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 pnei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kalai, alalai, 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 pnei Shabbat nekabelai, ailai, shamor vezachor bedibur echad. ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקורה ברכה. מראש מקדם ניסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלי, אללי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue on page 22 and call on Star Flights.
Mizmor Shir El Yom HaShabbat Tov Adayot El Adonai Yuzamir El Shimka El Yon. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a 10-string harp, with voice and lyre together. You have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I'll shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. To righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of London. The flourish in the courts of God, of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit like are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my whom there is no wrong.
Now we turn to page 27 and call on Lindsay and Derek Woznicki.
Teach me, O God, a blessing of prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair.
Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Bless my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways.
We turn now to page 26, and from now on, we'll use primarily the even numbered pages. So if I don't announce it, you'll know just to turn and go to the next even numbered page. Page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברך רותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתמר וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
Continue with Baruch on page 28. We rise and turn towards Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravi, u'chokhmah potech sha'arim, u'bitmunah meshaneh itim, u'machalit b'tazmanim, u'mesader et ha'kochavim, v'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, urei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אלוהי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבי.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי מצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands and saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You performed miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led your people Israel out from their midst to free them for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously.
ביילים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך ביילים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורת אילות אוסף אלה, נורת אילות אוסף מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורות אילות אוסף אלה, נורות אילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, aporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
We continue now with the tefillah, beginning on page 48. Page 48, we rise and turn towards Jerusalem.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הדל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחי ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. Baruch atah Adonai ha'il hakadosh.
We continue on page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarich et amcha Yisrael b'chulit uv'chosha b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We take a moment now for private prayer.
Ratzon imrefi v'higyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali Adonai tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
We turn now in our prayer books to page 245 as we continue with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of Torah, page 245.
Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai, your God, to observe faithfully in the words of this Torah, and let their children, who do not yet know it, hear, that they, too, may learn to revere Adonai, your God.
Page 246.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. שאו שערים ראשיכם, ושאו פתחי עולם, ויבוא מלך הכבוד. מי הוא זה מלך הכבוד? אדוני צבאות, הוא מלך הכבוד.
Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. So the Mishnah teaches us that Moses received Torah at Sinai, and then he passed it on to Joshua, and Joshua in turn gave it to the judges, and the judges taught it to the prophets, and the prophets preached it to the elders, and so it was transmitted down as a precious heritage from generation to generation, from master to disciple, from teachers to students, from parents to children. And so today we add yet one more link in that ongoing chain of tradition.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. It is teaching its love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti uneromema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai agdula v'gvura v'atiferet v'hanitzach v'hahod. Ki chol v'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki chol v'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'amid nasi lechol rosh.
This week's Torah portion is called Beha'alotacha, and over the course of its several chapters has a number of different stories and episodes of the Israelites as they're wandering through the wilderness. That's basically the theme of the story of the entire chapter, the entire book of Numbers from which we're reading. This evening we'll be reading from Numbers chapter 11. And if you're close to a copy of the Red Torah commentary, you'll be able to follow the Torah reading beginning on page 1091. We're in Numbers chapter 11 at the beginning of the chapter. This particular episode is one example of many during the course of their 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, when the Israelites got a little restless and a little rebellious and were unhappy with their situation. I know none of us can imagine complaining or moaning or groaning, but believe it or not, from time to time, the Israelites did do that. And this time, it was about what they had to eat. So you'll be able to follow the reading beginning on page 1091, Numbers chapter 11. For the first Aliyah, we call for the reading of the Torah, Jonah's TBI mentor, Rabbi Jim Sagarin. And for the first Aliyah, we call Jonah's grandfather, Donald Alexander. Yamod b'kriyat HaTorah Harav Yoshua ben Eliezer ve'etzel. Yamod Daniel ben Chaim, Aliyah Rishona.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamavorot.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim. V'nosan lanu Torah emes. Torah so. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
ויהי העם כמתאוננים רע באוזני אדוני וישמע אדוני וייחר אפו ותבער בם אש אדוני ותאכל מקצה המחנה ויצעק העם אל משה ויתפלל משה אל אדוני ותשקע האש ויקרא שם המקום ההוא תבערה כי בערה בם אש אדוני.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher nasan lanu Torah emes. V'chayei olam notah b'sachenu. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. For the second Aliyah, we call for the reading of the Torah, Jason Weiss, and for the Aliyah, Jonah's grandfather, Richard Weiss. Yamod b'kriyat HaTorah Razi ben Shmuel Baruch. Yamod Shmuel ben Moshe v'Yehudi, Aliyah Shniya.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorot.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'hasafsuf asher b'kerbo itavut ta'ava vayashuvu vayibku gam b'nei Yisrael vayomru mi yakilenu basar zaharnu et hadaga asher nochal b'mitzrayim chinam et hakishuim ve'et ha'avatichim ve'et chatzir ve'et habsalim ve'et hashumim ve'ata nashenu yivish shah en kol belti el haman enenu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam notah b'korkenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the third Aliyah, we call for the reading of the Torah, Jonah's big sister Eleanor, and for the Aliyah, Jonah's aunt and uncle Deborah and Robert Ernst. Tamud b'kriyat HaTorah, Chana Peshibat, Razi v'Abigail, יעמוד ראובן בן מרדכי ואלעזר תעמוד דבורה בת דניאל ומרים אסתר עלייה שלישית.
Baruch hu et Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ve'haman kizrat gad u ve'eno ke'en havidolah shatu ha'am velaktu v'tahanu barehai o daho bamidoha uvishlu baparor Vishu oto ugot v'haya tamod kitam l'shad hashaman uveredet hatal al hamahana laila yehire ata alav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natav b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the fourth Aliyah, we call Jonah's aunt Elaine Alexander and uncle David Alexander. Yamod David ben Daniel Miriam Esther Tamod Avra bat Daniel Miriam Esther Aliyah Levi.
Hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach La'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. וישמע משה את העם בוכה למשפחותיו, איש לפתח אוהלו. וייחר אף אדוני מאוד ובעיני משה רע. ויאמר משה אל אדוני, למה הרעות לעבדיך, ולמה לא מצאתי חן בעיניך? אשום את מסע כל העם הזה עלי. אנוכי הראותי את כל העם הזה, אם אנוכי יליתיהו, כי תאמר אלי, שאהו בחיקך כאשר יישא האומן את היונק, על האדמה אשר נשבעת לאבותיו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Toret emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the fifth Aliyah, we call Jonah's sisters, Eleanor and Daniela. Tamod Chana Peshi bat Razi v'Abigail, Tamod Dina Chaya bat Razi v'Abigail, Aliyah Hamishit.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. מאין לי בשר לתת לכל העם הזה? כי יבכו אליי לאמור, תנה לנו בשר ונאכלה. לא אוכל אנוכי לבדי לשאת את כל העם הזה, כי כבד ממני. ואם ככה את עושה לי, הרגני נא הרוג. אם מצאתי חן בעיניך, ואל אראה ברעותי.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
Asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tzalchenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the sixth Aliyah, we call Gail and Jason Weiss. Yamod Razi Ben Shmuel Barut, Talmud Abigail Bat Daniel Miriam Esther, Aliyah Shishit.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorak.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bakar banu mikol ha'olamim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Esfa li 70 ish miziknei Yisrael, asher yadata ki hem ziknei ha'am, b'shot rav. ולקחת אותם אל אוהל מועד, והתייצבו שם עמך. וירדתי ודיברתי עמך שם, ועצרתי מן הרוח אשר עליך, ושמתי עליהם, ונסעו איתך במסע העם, ולא תיסע אתה לבדך. ואל העם תאמר, התקדשו למחר, ואכלתם בשר, כי בכיתם באוזני אדוני, לאמור מי יאכילנו בשר, כי טוב לנו במצרים, ונתן אדוני לכם בשר ואכלתם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet,
v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. In the midst of our joy of celebrating this Shabbat and of celebrating with Joan and his family, we take a moment now to acknowledge our awareness that there are some whose joy and whose celebration is diminished due to illness. We mention particularly Sheldon Cohn, Wayne Silverman, Carrie Bellows, Andrew Bider, Esther Mendelson, Ronald James Sullivan, Dennis Gelbert, Sima Polchinsky, Karen Zandy, Michael Ben Mindel, Sandy Rubin, Diana Binder, Elise Langenfield, Hannah Devora Bat Ita, Asher Gedalia Ben Malka, Shelley Stone, Sheila Lambie, Elena Klein Angus, Ilana Miriam Bat Chava, Fred Siegel, Elaine Morgan, Tracy Kite, Valerie Dalmos, Naum Migum, James Bernstein, Eliezer Shlomo Ben Shindel, Rabbi Herbert Bronstein, Laura Ifmar, Deanne Lossoff, Ronald Silverman, Carol Harbert. These, we add the names of others of whom we know who are in need of healing, whether healing of body or healing of spirit. Together we pray they will soon know a refuah shlema.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. מי שברך אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We turn now to the Maftir, the concluding section of this week's Torah portion, which, if you're following in the Red Torah commentary, you'll be able to find on page 1100. This is the end of chapter 12, yet another story of rambunctiousness or rebelliousness on the part of this people, this time on the part of Aaron and Miriam, brother and sister of Moses, who challenge his authority, and we get just the tail end of that particular episode. And for the maftir, we call the bar mitzvah Jonah Benjamin Weiss. Yamod HaMaftir, Yonah Binyamin Ben Razi V'Abigail, bar mitzvah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Ve'avi Hayarok Yara Befanecha Elo Tikalem Shiva Yamim Tisager Shiva Yamim Nichutz Lemachane Ve'achar Te'aseh Atisager Miriam Nichutz Lemachane Shiva Yamim Ve'ha'am Lo nas'a ad Yosef Miriam Ve'achar nas'u ha'am mechatzerot Vayachanu b'midbar paran. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torat emet V'chayei olam nata b'tolchenu Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב ואמותינו שרה רבקה וחבל לאה, הוא יברך את הבחור יונה בנימין בן רזי ואביגיל בר מצווה אשר עלה לתורה היום. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמרהו ויצילהו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, ישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיו, ישם בליבו אהבתו ויראתו ולעשות רצונו ולעובדו בלבב שלם כל הימים, ונאמר אמן. מזל טוב.
Mazel tov. Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, mazel tov, siman tov. Yeilanu, yeilanu, ulechol Yisrael.
Mazel tov. Let's all stand.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה.
We turn now to the reading of the Haftorah portion, which is taken from the writing of the prophet Zechariah, chapter 4, and which you can find in the Red Torah commentary on page 1260. The very beginning of the Torah portion talks about the lighting of the lamp of the menorah that was in the ancient synagogue. And the Haftorah discusses the prophet Zechariah's vision about the menorah that would once again be lit when the temple was rebuilt.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'mi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'ndiei ha'emet b'tzedek. Vayashov hamalach hadover bi vayeireni keish asher yeor mishnato vayomer elai ma'ata ro'eh va'omar ra'iti v'hinei minorat sahav kula Vigula arosha vishiva neroteha aleha shiva vishiva mutzakot lanerot asher arosha ushnayim zeitim aleha echad memin hagula echad el smola ve'an va'omar el hamalach hadover bi lemor Ma'ela Adoni Baya'an Hamalach Hadover bi Bayomer Eli Hello Yadata Mahema Ele Omar Lo Adoni Baya'an Bayomer Eli Lemor Zeh Devar Adonai El Zerubbabel Lemor lo v'chayil v'lo v'choach ki umbarchi Amar Adonai Tzvaot Miata har hagadol lifnei Zerubbabel lemishor v'hotzi ata even harosha tishuot chen la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sor kol haolamim sadik lekol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber kayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah v'al avodah v'al ha'nevi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Likushav Limnucha, Lechavod, Uletif Aret, Al Hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu Modim Lach, Umbarhim Otach, Yitbarach Shimcha, Bevichol Hai, Tamid Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Now we get to talk. So, all right, Jonah, when you were born, we knew pretty early that you were a little different than your sisters. You were always a quiet and content child. For goodness sake, it took you over 2 years to say more than a single word in a row. Mom and I often thought that since your sisters were always talking, you never got the opportunity for practice. Truly, The only time you made a peep was when you couldn't take your sister smothering it. Otherwise, you were extremely easy. But for what you lacked in words, you often made up for with your brilliant facial expressions and great smile. You were always quietly observing and studying the world around you. Jonah, you were such an easy child, you never really complained or asked for anything. Although that has changed a little bit since you became a teenager. I guess your brother owes you big time, because if you were difficult, we may have been content with just the family of Bob. Just kidding, Seth. Just kidding. Over these 13 years, I've watched you grow up from a sweet little quiet boy to a slightly less quiet, confident young man. You have put so much time and effort in your studies, and you did a wonderful job tonight. I know that your bar mitzvah is a little different than your sister's given the pandemic, but I want you to know that it is no less special. You have many family members and friends that are here with you in spirit, and they love you very much. And those that are no longer with us, like Nani and Grandma and your great-grandparents, would have been filled with joy watching you tonight. Jonah, I couldn't be more proud of what you have accomplished in making this next big step in your life. As you get older, you will see that our unsolicited advice and guidance will slowly come to an end, but don't worry, you still have plenty of years left to go. And as you feel your way through life, you should know that our door is always open and will be there for you whenever and wherever you need us. I know that I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. We will be there for you no matter what. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. And I hope one day in the future, you can experience the joy and pride that we feel watching your child as they read from the Torah in front of God, family, and friends. Lador v'dor, from generation to generation. I'm so proud of you, Jonah. I love you, and Mazel Tov.
Jonah Benjamin, Jonah Barona, JB Dubs, the sports boy, the Philly boy. I'll keep this short and sweet, I promise. How are you already 13? Where does time go? You're making me feel old. Thanks. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure watching you grow. You're kind, smart, thoughtful, but also shy and quiet. Not that your sisters ever give you a chance to be loud or talk over them. You're liked by everybody, and you're a great friend to all. And honestly, so far, you've been the easiest to raise. Sorry. You're the go with the flow attitude and the personality make it way too easy for Dad and me. Thank you for loving sports so much. You give Dad and I so much to talk about, even though your sisters are thoroughly over the dinner conversations. You have excelled so much in both baseball and hockey over the last few years. It's been so fun to watch you love each sport so much. Summer's all about baseball, winter's all about hockey. You're a really good role model for Seth. He looks up to you so much. From your athletic ability to your dedication to schoolwork, he admires you. Best friends, best buds, best brothers. Ellie and Danny adore you. They were so excited to have a brother. They would fight over you, but you just lay there and watch it all. They dress you up and make you play with dolls. But that's the perk of having two older sisters, right?
Yeah.
Jonah, keep being you. I'm excited to see what your future brings. It's already the end of 7th grade for you. High school will be here before you know it. Mazel Tov, you did a great job. We're so proud of you. I love you.
We turn back to our prayer books now to page 256. Page 256, and as we prepare to return the Torah to the ark, let us rise.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, Ki Nizgav Shemo Levado. Let us praise the name of Adonai, for God's name alone is exalted.
Hodo al eretz v'sham השמיים, ויורם גרן לעמו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל, עם קרוב. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
My Torah portion is called Vachalotacha and is taken from the book of Numbers. In chapter 11, we read about rebellions. I think that this chapter gives us examples of a good rebellion and a bad rebellion. The bad rebellion is at the beginning of the chapter when the Israelites moan and complain about food. Even though they have manna, which is enough to eat and gives them all the nutrition they need, they complain that they want meat, but they don't stop there. They continue by saying that they remember how well they ate in Egypt, suggesting that they were better off there. God got angry because people weren't liking it and started whining about the meat. God said that they would eat meat until it was coming out of their noses. Then Moses started to argue with the Eternal One and said, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant? And why have I not enjoyed your favor, that you have laid all these people upon me?" But Moses doesn't always complain about the people. Later in my portion, Moses takes the elders out to the tent of meeting so that they can be initiated to the holy work and help Moses lead the people. But Eldad and Medad don't go out to the tent. Instead, they prophesy inside the camp. This is what I call a good rebellion. Joshua wants Moses to restrain Eldad and Medad from prophesying in the camp because he thinks that is a rebellious act. But Moses says to him, "Would that all the people were prophets and the divine spirit was upon them?" In other words, Moses thought that Eldad and Medad were sending a good message and a good example, even though that they were rebelling against the old ways. In our times, too, there are both good and bad rebellions. Some bad rebellions have been happening, like the attack at Capitol in Washington, D.C., which is not right to do at all, and a very bad rebellion. But good rebellions in our times are peaceful protests and standing up for someone else and helping them as much as you can. I also want to talk about COVID and how we just couldn't be together for a while. COVID has just totally changed our lives and our holiday celebrations and seeing family. It wasn't so fun at first, but we are getting there, and hopefully all of us will have nice celebrations and holidays get-togethers in the near future. In order to get there, we need to follow the rules and not rebel against them. I think that it will help to have leadership like Moses, who awarded the people who did good rebellions and punished the people who did bad rebellions. Light is also a major theme in my Torah portion, as Aaron lit the oil of the sanctuary at tent of meeting. For me, light represented God's presence among the people of Israel. The light is also symbolized eternity in God's promise to care for and protect Jewish people at all times and in all places. I myself hope to carry God's spark within me and find that spark in other people. Preparing for my bar mitzvah has been more challenging because of COVID. I couldn't meet with anybody in person, but even so, many people helped me, and I want to thank some of them now. Mom and Dad, thank you for helping me in my mitzvah project and helping me read my Torah portion. Thanks for also the love you and support you give me all the time. Rabbi Weinberg, thank you for helping me understand the reading of the Torah and helping me write my sage. Rabbi Sagan, thank you for being my TBI mentor and helping me understand Torah portion things and to talk about in my speech. Sherry Graham, my bar mitzvah tutor, thank you for teaching me Haftarah Cho and teaching me how to read and chant my Torah portion and the Torah blessings. Marla Bentley, Lori Sagan, and my other religious school teachers, thank you for helping me with my Jewish education here at TBI. Thanks to also David Levinson for helping me in setting up my e-cycling mitzvah project with Shore Community Services. Last but not least, I want to thank my whole family for helping me with all of this and entertaining me as well. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Mazel tov, Jonah. You can relax a little bit now. I wanted to talk with you tonight about a scene in the Torah portion just before what you read. And the scene, believe it or not, has siblings disagreeing with each other. It's something that you could probably just imagine. You may not have experienced it, but you can imagine it happening in somebody else's family. Because Moses Moshe Rabbeinu is not an only child. He has an older brother and sister. And in the Torah, they come to him. And they do two things in chapter 12 that are really problematic. The first thing is that they gossip about him. They say nasty things about him. And then they complain about him. And they say, doesn't God also give us prophecy? Like, who made you in charge? Moses at first doesn't react at all, but God reacts. And God says, Aaron and Miriam, come here, I want to talk to you for a minute. He says to them, how dare you challenge Moses? Wouldn't it be nice if somebody did that for you? How dare you challenge Moses? How dare you question my God's judgment to choose Moses? I'm the one who put him in charge. And then God punishes Miriam and turns her hand into all white scales. And Aaron can't believe it. And he turns to Moses and he says, oh, my Lord Moshe, do something. Now, Moses would have every right to be angry and every right to just walk away from it. But instead, Moses is gentle and kind and forgiving. And he says a famous prayer, 5 words, probably the shortest prayer in the Torah. He says, El na rafan Allah. Oh God, please heal her. And miraculously, her hand turns back to normal. So what I learned from this story, I don't know about the magic part, the hand changing, all that. That might be good for special effects. But the real lesson is about Moses being a model of patience and forgiveness. These days, Jonah, I think you probably know just like I do, that most people seem not to be very forgiving and seem not to be very patient. All you have to do is listen to the news or watch what goes on in Congress. And you see that few people are patient with each other, and most people are ready to be unforgiving. But Moses sets a different example for all of us. Right away, when he had every right to be angry or bitter, instead he is patient and forgiving. It's a great lesson that Torah teaches to all of us. Now, those of us who know you know that you already understand this. And so we're proud of who you are because, not just because of what you did here tonight, although we're proud of that as well, but because of the kind of person that you have become. As we've watched you grow up, you inspire in us a sense of confidence and hope for what kind of world we might get when you and your generation grow up and take over. We're not leaving the world in such good shape for you. I'm sorry. But I have great confidence that you will, along with your siblings and your friends, your cousins, your generation, you'll fix it. You'll make it a better world. And you'll be able to use the example of Moses, of patience and forgiveness, to make that world a better place. So it's that sense of pride in who you are and confidence about who you will yet become that I combine into the ancient words of priestly blessing. I'm going to ask your parents to stand up to help with transmitting this blessing to you. They'll put their hands on your head. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yechuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face always be turned towards you, and may you always be granted peace. Amen. Before you sit down, Joanna, we have some gifts for you. The first one is a certificate which you signed along with your parents and the leadership of the congregation, and it says, in part, in becoming a bar mitzvah, Jonah Benjamin Weiss has accepted the privileges and responsibilities of being a Jew. Lifelong Torah study and the keeping of mitzvot, Shabbat, holy day and life cycle observances, participation in the life of the synagogue, the Jewish community in Israel, dedication to Tikkun Olam, the perfection of our world. In addition to that, we have a gift from you, from our congregation, which is your own copy of our High Holiday Prayer books. One for Rosh Hashanah and one for Yom Kippur. You'll be able to use them this coming September and every year thereafter. We also have for you from the TBI Brotherhood a picture frame engraved with your name and the date. And since you haven't had a chance to put a picture in there, Brotherhood has put a certificate in there, and that certificate testifies to the fact that they have planted a tree in Israel in honor of your bar mitzvah. We also have for you from Sisterhood your own Kiddush cup engraved with your monogram and the date. You're going to use it later to lead Kiddush. For now, you can put it back on the stand so we don't spill the grape juice that's in it. And we also have for you gift certificates. One from the Jewish United Fund of Metropolitan Chicago, one from NIFTY, the North American Federation of Temple Youth, and one from Temple Beth Israel. Each one is a gift certificate good towards a high school summer or semester trip to Israel. Start packing, you'll be able to go visit your tree. So mazel tov to you. You're welcome. Now you can sit down. Friends, we turn back to our prayer books now for the concluding section of our worship. We turn to the bottom of page, in the prayer book, the bottom of page 282, page 282 for Aleinu. Let us rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Page 295. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at the season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha. We call to mind those whose yard sites are observed on this Shabbat. Jenny Neidich Agron, Maurice J. Bass, Max Browdy, Izzy Cohn, Abraham DeLue, Jack Emmerman, Minnie B. Fenson, Morton Friedman, Maurice Gassman, Esther Greenberg, Harry Isbitz, Manuel David Isbitz, Solomon Jacobson, Rose Kanofsky, Jean E. Case, Bella Corer, J. George Cruz, Florence Levine, Sidney Leeds, Janet Lerner, Dinah Levinson, Dmitry Mavosky, Harold Mozak, Bernard H. Noodleman, Celia Pakin, Arnold Rosenthal, Cy R. Citrick, Adeline Sloan, Charles Smith, Theodis Ted Spikes, Robert Swartz, Edith Taylor. These last names we add memories of dear ones not now mentioned by name, but cherished in their mourners' hearts, as all those who mourn now rise for Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Yalma divrach u'tev yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei v'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'yomei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitomam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei v'kudsha b'richu. Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tishbachata v'nechamata. V'amiran v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom araba min Shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamah. Uyaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
V'yimru, 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 amen. V'yimru, v'yimru, v'yimru,
Shabbat Shalom. In just a moment, Mazel Tov. In just a moment, we're going to conclude our service, our Shabbat service, by making Kiddush. I'll ask Jonah to take his Kiddush cup, and Marla will take her Kiddush cup, and we'll sing the Kiddush together. And then I'll ask you to remain in your seats until the usher comes and dismisses you so that we don't get a bottleneck of people in the doorway. And I'm happy to tell you that the Bar Mitzvah family has provided a special treat for you, a Shabbat bag, which I think it has their name on it, right? Yeah. It has your name on it. You'll be able to pick it up from the table in the foyer as you exit the sanctuary. So let's all stand for Kiddush. You can find the words on page 4 and 5. Vayi'er vayivoker yom hashishi. Vayichulu hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am. ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, ובו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.